Hello everyone, it is 2025, which means that garden planning has definitely started. So I wanted to do a series of videos where I deep dive into a specific variety of flowers that I'm growing, and I'll share with you all the information that I have from how it's done in the past. I'll put in photos and videos of it growing in my container garden, unless it's a new one. I will also go over any care tips that I've learned for containers, basically everything that I've experienced with growing these varieties. And then I also have two books that are split up into sections by flower type. So I want to kind of read through those and see if there's any extra information hidden there anywhere that I don't know about. So today we're going to start with probably my number one flower for my garden, which are zinnias. I love zinnias for a few different reasons. First is that they come in so many different colors, shapes, sizes. If there is a certain color I want for my garden that year, I can for sure find a zinnia that is that color. And I just absolutely love, they're like happiness in a flower for me. If I had to pick one word for zinnias, it would be happy. The other reason I love them is because they are incredibly productive, which is very important for smaller gardens. So zinnias, like most of the flowers I grow, are cut and come again. So the more you harvest off of them, the more they'll flower. And I do have a reel from 2 years ago, I think, where I cut every single zinnia off the flowers in my center raised bed and then how they looked over the next 7 days. So if I can find that, I will put that in here so you can see that yes, they do in fact come back. So make sure that you are harvesting your zinnias. Because these are so productive, they actually make up the majority of my giveaway bouquets. They also make up the majority of my garden. I just love them so much. Not everything is perfect with them. I'll talk about pests and disease issues after I go through all the varieties, but if somebody, for some reason, told me I could only grow one flower in my garden, it would be zinnias. Again, because of the productivity, and I just love being able to give flowers away to people. So I'm gonna go through all of the zinnias I have. I've sort of ordered them in terms of my favorite, just visually, to least favorite, and then some ones I haven't tried yet, but I really do love all of them. Like, they're all very close in terms of how much I love them. So I'm gonna start with the Queen or Queenie Lime series. I think this might be one of everyone's favorite. As far as I know so far, I think there are 5 varieties total. I have 4 that I really love. So I have the Queenie Red Lime. This is probably my favorite just because it's not a bright red. It's more of like, I don't want to say a vintagey pinkish color with the lime mixed in. And then I love Queenie Lime with Blush. That one is much more lime with a hint of pink. You can't tell, pink is one of my favorite colors. And then next up I have Queenie Lemon Peach. This one was a new one for me last year, and I also just fell in love. So this one, it is the only one that doesn't have the word lime in it. It is lemon peach. So it's yellow mixed with orange. And then lastly is the Queenie Lime Orange. So mostly orange with a little bit of lime. I love all of these so much. They are my favorite visually. However, they were the only flower last year that I had very low germination, and they were all new seeds from that year. So and it happened on all the varieties. I think the orange one germinated the best, but 2 years ago I grew the red and the lime with Blush, and I don't remember that being an issue. So I'm gonna see how they do this year. I actually bought some new seed packets for this year just because of the germination rate of last year's packets were so low. I don't know how they're gonna be this year, but I'm gonna start extra. I'm gonna plant more per cell, but all of the rest of my zinnias, I have never had that issue with. I have seed packets that will now be in their 4th or 5th year, I think, that still have great germination rates. So that's the only variety I've seen that with. If you have any tips on getting the Queenie Lime series to germinate at a higher percentage, please let me know down below. Now, a little bit about the growing information for the Queenie Lime series. I do start all of my zinnias, I think, inside about 4 weeks before I can move them outside our last frost date because they grow quickly. And I don't want to have giant plants inside. So some other plants I'll start 6 to 8 weeks. These are definitely a hard 4 weeks for me because they also grow fairly quickly. I will also directly transplant some of them as well. So this is a great one too if you don't want to worry about starting seeds inside, but you still want to have flowers relatively quickly. I would highly recommend zinnias. For me, these bloom from either late June or early July. Usually it's sometime in June I'll see the first flower open, and then they will go until the powdery mildew or the frost kills them. So for the queen lime specifically, the height on these is 30 to 40 inches. So I would say of the zinnias I've grown, they're probably about medium height. The spacing recommendations are 9 to 12 inches apart and no support necessary for these, which for this size of zinnia, I do find true. Again, if these are only going to get to maybe like 3 feet tall at the maximum, in my garden, I don't need any supports. I do also have a brick wall around my garden, and usually these are pretty low to the ground, so do keep that in mind if you do think you might need some supports. But for the medium to shorter zinnias, I've never had that problem. However, if we move on to the Benary giant zinnias, which were actually the first zinnias I think that I grew in my garden from seed, which is why I just have an emotional connection to them. But like the name says, these are giant. And I grew these, the first time I grew them, they were in my center raised bed. They got taller than me. So not just measuring from the deck to the top of the flower, but from the soil where the flower was to the top was taller than me. I am 5'4". I think they came in at around maybe 5'6". And it does say here that the estimated height is 40 to 50 inches, but no, they were definitely over 60 inches. And that's in a container. So I would expect these to grow larger than what is on the label. And also because of that, I no longer plant them in elevated beds. I plant them in shorter beds because those were just too tall at the end for me to even harvest. But I started with the Benary's giant mix zinnias, and those basically because it was my first time, I like getting mixes to see how I like them, the range of colors available. The planning side of me is a little bit nervous though, because I like to know what color is going where, but I think I grew these, like I said, in the center raised bed the very first time, had no idea what colors I was going to be getting. And then as I found the colors that I loved, I went and just bought packs of those individual Benary giant zinnias. So other than the mix, which I still have and I'm still gonna grow, I have the Benary's giant wine zinnia, which I grew last year. It's a deep fuchsia, it's really beautiful. And then I also have Benary's giant coral. Again, pink is my favorite color. So different shades of pink are what I'm drawn to. So that's why I have the wine and the coral giant Benary zinnias. Last year I grew them in a 30-gallon grow bag, about 5, I think, in one 30-gallon grow bag. They did okay. I probably could have gone down to 4, but I think that these are fantastic if you want to get some height quickly in your garden. And again, all of these are cut and come again, so keep harvesting. Because these are giant zinnias, they will have longer stems for cutting if that is something that is important to you, but I love these so much. And the butterflies and the bees love the zinnias in my garden. Probably one of the top 3 flowers that they love the most. So all of those that I just mentioned are from Johnny's Seed. Most of my seeds in general are from Johnny's Seed. No specific reason, but I started buying from them because they have probably the most information out of any seed company on the seed packet. So as a beginner gardener, that was great. And then I'm a person that if I find something I like, I stick to it until I don't like it anymore. So Johnny's Seed is where I do get most of these from. I will link down every single variety that I can down in the description below. None of this is sponsored, anything like that. These are just the zinnias I love. However, some of them I might not be able to link. For example, the next ones are from Floret. So she released, I think it was the first time she released zinnia seeds last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I ordered the precious metals, which are just a really beautiful mix of light pinks, light oranges, peaches. I had a light yellow, a creamy color. They were very beautiful. These got to, let me see the height on here. They definitely were taller than the Queen Lime series. So 48 to 56 inches. I do think when I grew them, they were a little bit shorter than the Benary's giant zinnias, even though the estimated height is taller. But I did grow 1 each in a 7-gallon grow bag. So I don't know if maybe it had more space, it would have gotten taller. But I absolutely loved the color range of these. I don't know if she is still selling zinnias. If she is, I will link it down below. But if not, I'm gonna try to save many more seeds next year than I did this year. I do have some that I did save, but I think only just 1 flower. And then I will send some out to anyone who's interested. So I will work on that for this year to save as many seeds as possible. But these were just really, really stunning in my garden. The other one that I have from Floret, I actually got from a garden friend, so we traded some seeds, and this is the Floret Alpine Glow Zinnias. I think, because I don't have the actual seed packet here with the photo on it, photo will be here, but I think these are a little bit more saturated in color than the Precious Metals Zinnias. One other thing I want to mention is that these were more expensive than any of the other Zinnias that I have, which for me, buying one packet I think was worth it. I don't think these are mind-blowing enough where I would regularly order a seed packet. I think it was like around $20. I wouldn't regularly do that, but since you can buy them once and save the seeds, if you remember, I do think it was a good investment. So those are the two that I have from Floret Flower. Then I have two from Botanical Interests, and I ended up loving these a lot more than I expected to. The one that surprised me the most here, this is the Zinnia Mazurkia. It's again kind of a shorter to medium. It gets about 2 feet tall. And I don't know why, but on the packet, I thought it was gonna be more of like a white and a red, kind of like a candy cane, but it turned out to be dark pink and light pink. So of course I fell in love with these. And what I like about the Zinnias is it seems like each one, even in the same variety, can look a little bit different once it flowers. And I definitely noticed that with the Mazurkia. Some were more open, some were more closed. I loved the color combination on these petals. 100% growing these next year. And then another one I fell in love with that I didn't expect was the Zinnia Envy. So these are green with envy. These are a little bit taller, 24 to 30 inches tall, probably around the same height as the Queenie Lime series. And that's actually the reason I got them, because all of them in the Queenie Lime series have a little bit of lime, except for the lemon peach, but none of them are full lime, but these are. So it was a fantastic complement to the Queenie Lime series. I don't know if I have a photo of just all of these 5 together. I know I took one. Question is, can I find it? If I can, I will put it up here, but it looked like it belonged with them. And some of my favorite bouquets were the ones where I tied in the Zinnia Envy with the Queenie Lime series, and I just thought it was really beautiful together. So 100% growing these. You know, there is so much green in the garden that oftentimes I'm not thinking of growing a green flower, but then when you're cutting the flowers, green really does stand out in a bouquet. So 100% in love with these. Let me see what spacing recommendations say here, and I'll talk a little bit about how I space them in my garden. So this one, it says a group of 3 seeds every 12 inches. Mine were closer than that. So now let's move on to everything here in these gold packets. These are from Park Seed. So I have in this first row all of my Cinderella Zinnias. These aren't necessarily the most full Zinnias or the Zinnias with the largest flower head, but they do have more unique shapes than I've ever seen. They tend to be a little bit more open. I would say fewer petals than some of the other Zinnias, but they do stand out from the other varieties that I have. I have a good amount of colors, probably too many for me to fit in my garden, but of the Cinderella Zinnia series, I have orange. I have peach, which I go back and forth on if I love peach or orange more. As I'm trying to not have too many seeds in the garden, I'd say the orange and the peach are maybe my least favorite, even though I still love them, but I don't know if I can say I like one over the other, so I'm probably just gonna grow both of them again. Next is the Cinderella Red. I do find that I don't have as many just true red flowers in the garden. I think because when I'm planning like a color scheme, red doesn't really come up very much, but on my front deck, usually it's just a mishmash of color. I'm gonna do basically no color planning on the front deck now that I have the garage deck that I can make a little bit more formal. So I'm excited to have more red flowers in the garden. I have Cinderella Lilac, which is so pretty. I think the first time I grew it was last year. I had done the Cinderella Purple, which I also have, but the Cinderella Lilac, I just love the pastel color of that flower, but it also does look really good with the purple. So the purple is a very vibrant, bright purple. Lilac is exactly what you would expect. The next row here are part of the Zinnia's Parks Picks collection. Parks Picks, I feel like it's Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a little bit of a tongue twister there. But I have a few different colors of these, and I think this is gonna be my first year growing them. That is right, I got them last year. I don't remember if I got them too late in the season or if I ran out of room. Both of those are equally likely. And I don't know if the height is listed back on here. It does have the spacing of 12 inches like most of them say. Yeah, I don't see the height, so I will put that on the screen for all the park seed zinnias as well. But I'm excited about these colors. So I have, start at the top, coral, again, love of pink. I have carmine rose, which I feel like I love anything with the word carmine in it. The QIS Carmine Gomphrena is my favorite color of Gomphrena, so I'm hoping that I love the carmine rose zinnias just as much. I have the yellow, because kind of like the red, I realized I don't really have a lot of yellow flowers in my garden. I mean, I have the sunflowers, but they bloom just for a little bit before all the petals fall off, so I want more yellow flowers in the garden, which is why I got those. I have white. Similar story, I do have more white decorative flowers, but not a lot of white cut flowers. So I wanted to get more of those colors in. And then lastly is a deep red, which is not a bright red, it's a deep red, but I'm really excited for that, almost like a ruby red color. Again, nothing I've ever grown before, so I'm excited to try a new color and see if I fall in love or not. And then I have some that are new to me. I actually had the Zinnia Thumbelina seeds this past year, but ran out of room, so I didn't plant them anywhere. I think because these are small. So these are dwarf zinnias. They are from So Right Seeds. I got a ton of dwarf seed varieties from So Right Seeds. So if you're looking for some great dwarf varieties, both flowers, fruits, and vegetables, I would definitely check them out. But these are only 10 to 15 inches in height. And because they're so small, I think these are definitely a direct sow candidate. I don't feel like I need to start them inside if they're only going to get to about 10 inches tall. Just toss them outside after the last frost date. So these I think are going to be really pretty. As cut flowers, I don't know how they'll work because the stems will be much shorter than any of the other zinnias. I'm thinking these might be more of a decorative deadhead when the flowers look a little bit bad situation, but we'll see. I also think these might go down in the garage deck where I don't plan to have cut flowers down there. Probably will end up with some, but the plan is not to. And I think these would look really great along a railing or somewhere where the pot is lifted up higher, maybe like a little border. So I think that's what I'm gonna do with these. And then lastly, I got 3 more zinnias when I was online at Johnny Seed shopping for Gomphrena. I couldn't just order what I was originally there for. Now I am excited because the main issue I have with zinnias, that again I'll talk a little bit more about in just a second, is powdery mildew. But the Zahara zinnias, from what I've heard, are supposed to be more powdery mildew resistant, but these were recommended. These and then Oklahoma, which I've grown Oklahoma before. They were okay, weren't my favorite, but I'm gonna try these out and see how they do. So I have the double Zahara salmon and the double Zahara cherry. I need to branch out in terms of the colors that I'm growing in my garden, but I'm excited to try these. These, it says about, only 12 to 20 inches tall. So these are gonna be, after the Thumbelina, the next shortest. I will still grow them as cut flowers, but now I can kind of figure out where I wanna put them since they'll fit into smaller spaces. So those are the 2 double Zahara. And then I just saw an image of the Zinnia ballerina. It's pink, so I had to get it. And this one is 30 to 40 inches tall, so kind of medium to tall-ish range of the ones that I'm growing. I think this probably, like the rest of them, says 9 to 12 inches apart, no support necessary. I can't wait to try these. I don't know if I'm gonna put them, because my back deck garden is more muted color tones, and I still do cut flowers out there, but it's not kind of as crazy and haphazard as the front deck. So we'll see. These either go on the front or the back, or both. But those are all of the varieties of zinnias I have so far. I will very likely have more before I actually start sowing the seeds in a couple months. So let's talk a little bit about seed starting, maintenance, growing them in containers, all that fun stuff. Like I said, zinnias grow fairly quickly, especially compared to the other seeds that I start. So I do not go more than 4 weeks ahead of time. I have in the past, I did 6 weeks. Way too long. They were way too tall, and even though I had grow lights, I don't like to pot up if I can avoid it. So I want to kind of find that sweet spot where they are large enough that I can move them outside and not have to worry about them, but also not too large that they want to die because there's no more room for them to grow inside. So these I will start, all of them are going to start inside, which I think is all of them except Thumbelina, at 4 weeks beforehand. I think based on the almanac, it's end of April, but we always shoot for Mother's Day mid-May here. So I will start all of these indoors in mid-April. I do have a whole video on everything I use to start my seeds. I will link that down below, but as we get to that point this year, then I will share that with you again. I don't sow any seeds before March. I know a lot of people do winter sowing. I like my break. So these will be one of the last rounds, if not the last round of seeds that I sow this spring. So like I said, after I plant them out, they grow pretty quickly. They'll start to explode in growth and I'll start to see the buds earlier than almost any of my other summer annuals. They're typically one of the first summer annuals to bloom in my garden, which is just so exciting to see the pops of color open up. You can pinch them if you want to encourage more branching. I basically do that because as soon as one opens up, I cut it to make a bouquet for myself first, and then I keep cutting all the flowers to make my giveaway bouquets. So I will cut the flowers when they're kind of at their prime. So I never do an initial pinch, I just harvest them as they grow, and my plants get pretty bushy. Now, most of these do say no support necessary. A few caveats. I would definitely do any that get above 40 inches with a support. So the giant zinnias, even though the stalks are very strong and these say no support necessary, I've always ended up adding supports to them or tying them around each other to keep them upright. If I'm growing them in the center raised bed, up above the ground, I definitely want to add supports there, but if they are blocked either on the ground or next to the brick wall, then I'm fine without supporting them. So most of them I don't add supports to, just the taller ones I do, because I know I'm going to end up doing it at some point during the season anyway. As far as caring for them, these are pretty easy, I would say, in terms of maintenance. They want to be in full sun. I water them. I do either just a bloom boosting or all-purpose fertilizer. I try to stick to a once a week schedule or once every 2 weeks schedule until I hit the garden slump. But other than that, I don't really do much. I could definitely be better at pruning because a lot of the branches will overlap each other, which doesn't help with the spread of powdery mildew. But other than that, I really don't do much except just continue to harvest off of them. Now let's talk about pests and diseases. What I've experienced so far. So I've had zinnias in my garden for, again, 4 or 5 years now. Everyone's climate is going to be different. We can even both be in Chicago and our climates can be different. But for me, I will usually get aphids early on. I will blast them with a hose. Just every day I'll come out. If I see aphids, blast them off, and then eventually they're just gone. So that doesn't take much work at all. And then I think maybe once or twice I've seen a Japanese beetle, but they always get powdery mildew, except for the very first year I grew the giant Baneri mix, the same seeds I think that are sitting right here. So I grew them, I didn't get any powdery mildew. And I even had people asking me how I didn't. And I said, I had no idea, just good luck, I guess. Well, that good luck ended after year 1 because every other year, powdery mildew has taken out my zinnias before the weather has. So before they get too cold that they'd start to die back, they're already gone from powdery mildew. I've tried so many things. So first off, with terms of spacing, I do try to space these roughly about what they recommend. Some other plants I will cram together, but because I always know that powdery mildew is going to be an issue, having more airflow around the plants is beneficial. So I'll stick to that like 9, maybe 12-inch spacing. And I just do that same spacing in containers. So if I'm planting in my center raised bed, I will do roughly 9 inches apart. If I'm planting in a pot, depending on the size of the pot, like I said, I grew one of the precious metals, more giant zinnias per a 7-gallon grow bag. I could maybe fit 2 of one of the medium sized, but I definitely could not have fit 2 giant ones in a 7-gallon size container. So I just follow the regular spacing recommendations and then fit that into my garden beds or my pots. So areas with heat and humidity are definitely more prone to powdery mildew, although I think it's warmer days and cooler nights. Am I getting that backwards? Cooler days and warmer nights. Either way, I know powdery mildew is coming in my garden. So things I've tried. I did try pruning pretty heavily last year. Didn't matter. They were attacked just as badly as years that I didn't do anything. I did do an antifungal spray when I first saw the powdery mildew. Didn't seem to do much. I removed the leaves as soon as I see it because typically the powdery mildew will just start like 1 or 2 leaves and you want to get it off. It spreads by wind. So it can spread very easily to other parts of the plant and to other zinnias in your garden. So I'll remove the seeds as soon as remove the leaves as soon as I see the powdery mildew on them. What else have I tried? I grew one zinnia in one fairly large pot by itself. That still got powdery mildew. So I don't know. I think I just have to plan for it, which is kind of what I did this year. Last year, well, getting my years mixed up, 2024, I planned for the powdery mildew to get them. And instead of letting them stay in the garden and look terrible, because they sometimes will still put out some flowers before the powdery mildew completely wipes them out. But I removed them the earliest I've ever removed my zinnias from my center raised bed, which I think maybe it was end of August, early September. But then I just planted some cool weather crops, some fall flowers in there to make up for it. So I don't think, unlike my dahlias or my asters, I don't think I can rely on zinnias in my climate to make it through until first frost, but in other climates, you definitely can. I have a friend that lives in a dry climate and she probably doesn't even know what powdery mildew is, but she's never had to deal with it. So it is all climate dependent, but for me, I have to plan that powdery mildew is gonna wipe them out before the actual end of their life cycle. Now let's do some reading about zinnias. So I have 2 books that are split up by different flower categories, and I will do a whole garden book tour in a few weeks, but this one here is the Encyclopedia of Flowers. And then this one here is newer to me. It's the flowers and their meanings, which has been really fascinating so far. So first off, this one I've already read. I have put the little placeholders where I have the actual flower mentioned in my garden. So I'm assuming zinnias is the one at the end of the alphabet. Yes. So this says, zinnia. These brightly colored flowers bloom from a bushy brush plant belonging to the aster family. I don't think I knew they were part of the aster family. Flowers vary in size from 1 to 7 inches and in form. They might have a single, semi-double, or double layered petals. Zinnias come in a wide range of bright colors, including red, purple, lilac, white, yellow, and orange. Like I said, the amount of varieties of zinnias that you can really find exactly what you're looking for. Another reason I love them so much. Conditioning types. Zinnias last, so this book I think is also focused on cutting the flowers. Zinnias last much better when kept in cold water and not too much, because when the stems are submerged, they tend to rot quickly. Just 2 to 3 inches of water in a vase will be fine, and change the water often. They'll last at least 7 days in a vase before starting to look tired. Yeah, I would say zinnias are kind of near the long end when I have made bouquets, like they're one of maybe the last 2 or 3 flower types in my bouquet. Fascinating facts. Native to the American Southwest and Mexico, zinnias were once considered small and ugly. I remember reading that last time and feeling bad for the zinnias. When the Spanish first saw the flower in Mexico, they named it mal de ojos, or sickness of the eye. When zinnias were then introduced to Europeans, they became known as poorhouse flowers because they were so common and easy to grow. Don't let that stop you. Zinnias are one of those flowers that florists love the most because they are abundant and hold up very well in the summer. They are best used in rustic style flowers and arrangements. So that is this book. Let's see what flowers and their meanings say about zinnias. Pretty sure this one is also alphabetical order. Here we are, zinnia, and it's just a small paragraph. So zinnias represent thoughts of absent friends. A garden favorite, this flower appears in a wide range of bright, saturated hues. The zinnia is a symbol of wisdom for the Pueblo people of the American Southwest. For this reason, the edible, it is edible, flower was fed to children with the wish that they grow to be intelligent and well-spoken. I have eaten zinnia petals. They don't really taste like much to me. Like I think if I harvested the petals and tossed them in the salad, they'd act more like the leafy greens. They just didn't have much of a flavor, like not good, not bad, just kind of there, but they are really pretty. So you can make something brightly colored and the taste is just very bland. So it doesn't really mess with the taste much at all. But I think that's everything about my zinnias. These are definitely the ones I have the most of. And I think I will do a video when I start them all together for the ones that I'm starting inside. Like I said, I will link down my video from last year showing you everything that I used to start my seeds. It'll be the exact same this year. Let me know if you have any other questions that I might not have covered about these zinnias, and also let me know what your favorite zinnias are, because maybe I need to order more. And I will definitely be doing more videos going into each specific type of flower that I have. So China asters will probably be my next one because I love them so much. Gomphrena, I will probably put together like fruit and veg all in one, just because with my flowers, I tend to grow multiple varieties of the same type, whereas fruit and veg, it's like a cantaloupe plant, pepper plants. So I will put all those together. But I hope this is helpful, especially seeing how they actually look in my garden for the ones that I've already grown before. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.